it's great to be here at Running Legal Like a Business 2025 conference here at the Fontainebleau Resort and Hotel in Las Vegas, learning more about Adapt Legal. From what I know so far, they have a great logo cookie. This is really amazing. So today's session is going to be really great with the live recording of the IP Talks Brand Insights podcast. And I haven't been to the exhibit hall yet, but can't wait to go see also the UnitedLex booth where Jessica Broyles is going to be stationed and talking to folks here at the conference. There's so many people walking around. You can see them with their lanyards and their passes for the conference. So it's an exciting time. Right after today's podcast, there's going to be a book signing. Ashley will be signing her book, and all the proceeds go to Adapt Legal. So it's a good time. It's a good cause. Definitely stop by and check it out. So one of the things that we want to do, and we couldn't have picked a better forum actually to have this conversation, specifically about what we're calling clarity in chaos. And that chaos refers to the changes and shifts that we're seeing in the legal industry and how people are responding to it. So the focus today is talking about how we actually encourage and empower LegalOps professionals to take on an entrepreneurial mindset. So I'm McNeal Maddox. I'll actually be, as I said, the interviewer today, and I'm joined by some familiar faces and a new special guest who I'll let introduce themselves, starting with you, Ashley.
Hi, I'm Ashley Cheung. This is not my normal voice. I picked this up from my last video you like. I'm Ashley Cheung, virtual patent gateway principal and founder, and I am also turned podcaster, I think 3 years ago. I do filing for PTAP practitioners. I write books on the side, and I mentor a group of young, energetic, like next generation, but that's me.
Wonderful. And we're also joined by Sasha Strauss.
Thanks, McNeil. Hey, everybody. So my name is Sasha. I'm a professor in business schools, teach brand strategy, kind of like a way to think about the identity of a business or an organization or a nonprofit or a person. It's like a strategic identity building process. The gift of teaching it in business schools is to get to meet a lot of business leaders. I end up working with those business leaders as an advisor, as a consultant to help them do strategic brand development. That's me, Sasha Strauss.
Great. And also someone who's no stranger to the legal ops profession, Jessica Broyles. Please introduce yourself.
Hello everyone. It's great to be here. Thank you, Ashley, for organizing this, and a quick shout out to our adapt.legal community and friends for also being a part of this space. I'm Jessica Broyles. I am the VP of IP Services and Solutions with UnitedLex, where I provide consultative solutions to both corporates and law firms for all legal operations challenges. And we try to do that. What I do is I take my experience as an actual legal operations professional. I'd like to say I've been in the behind the scenes in legal operations for the past 15 years, but most of that has been focused on IP operations, and I've also experienced all three legs of the stool of the legal operations space. So I have started off at a law firm, went to a corporate legal and compliance department, and then going into the third party space. So I have a lot of thoughts and feelings.
Let's start right there. Your thoughts and feelings, and especially because you've seen so many parts of the legal profession and got to work with lots of different folks. I'm curious about specifically your take on the changes that you're seeing in the industry and what it means for legal ops professionals who need to adopt a more entrepreneurial approach.
I'm glad you asked that. That's a great question to start off with. First, let's define entrepreneurial approach, right? What is an entrepreneur? An entrepreneur is not a business owner, right? It is someone who organizes, manages, and takes on risk. And if that does not describe legal operations for an organization, I don't know what better suits that. So when you start looking at two things, and it's no surprise, right? Budget constraints and emerging tech. This is nothing new to our world in legal operations, because for the past 20 years, I feel like everyone has started to adopt various levels of technology and take on that risk. And so the big thing is, historically, legal departments reduce risk, right? That is the primary goal. We want as little risk as possible. And so when you have those initiatives and really the need to try something new, to implement something different, to improve a process, you have to take on risk. And you have to take that entrepreneurial mindset of, how am I going to take on risk in a way that I can manage it and that I can handle that if the worst thing does happen? Is what we hope for the best, but we plan for the worst, right? And I know that's something that's really big in a department, but I know also, Ashley, I mean, you as a founder, as an individual, you had to change your mindset, right? I'm curious.
Build on that, please, like the things that you're seeing in this new industry context, some of the changes and shifts that Jessica mentioned.
So thank you, Jessica. Thank you, McNeal, on that. One thing that I was thinking about this in this context is that besides managing deadlines, and I used to work at law firms for over 2 decades, so my customers are actually the lawyers within the firms in those days. And I think that in terms of the operations, I usually focuses on, besides the actual deadlines and the components of getting things done, getting papers filed, discovery, meet the deadlines. There's also a human capital that I actually focuses on, because I cannot do everything by myself. During the prep this morning, I was thinking that, looking at the questions, I was thinking about how it changes. I started my company in January 2020. At the beginning of COVID, I did not know COVID was coming. So I just knew that after 20 years, if I do know that, I would buy the Powerball. Traditionally, legal operations, attorneys are very risk averse. This is what legal industry is. I just always thought that when I came out, I was burned out, and I decided that the grass is not always greener on the other side. I've worked for like 3 or 4 firms before. So if I hop onto another one, it's the same type of industry, litigation. How much more flexibility can I request that industry to change? So I decided to talk to different friends, and then one of the person actually used to work for a large firm, and she left and decided to do consulting work. So I have a really good network, so people are referring me to like this particular woman. She didn't know me, and she gave me so many tips. We share a lot of like pain points that how we actually set it up. People expect lawyers to leave firm and they could start up, but nobody really expect a paralegal or support staff and go out and do their own things and still survive. One thing that I really want to say is that the COVID in some way prepare my business for a certain clientele, because otherwise they would not have remote opportunities. Like right now, if I'm asking them to do something, they are very traditional minded, very status quo. So I thought that the best thing that described this was that there's a Chinese character for weiji, which means danger and opportunity. The 2 characters, it goes hand in hand. It talks about risk and entrepreneur, like Jessica said, with the definitions there. I didn't think that much. I really just was like, okay, I'm done. I'm gonna do this. I know some people and some friends already said, hey, I'm gonna hire you. I said, I haven't left my firm yet, so we don't need to sign anything. It's like your reputation that we will get later on is that people know that I don't need a firm to have you get the work done, because you are the one that get this stuff done. So I already have people believe in me, but early on, I have to say that I was not deliberate or not intentional. I just went out, and it's throughout the 5.5 years journey that I learned about entrepreneur. And there's like someone by the name Seth Godin. I would by definition not be called entrepreneur by Seth's definition. I would be a solopreneur, because I don't have a whole team. I purposely do not want to hire a full team because there's too much managing. When I started, I just wanted to make sure that I wanted to have freedom. I wanted freedom to choose my client. I wanted to have the freedom to take care of my mom without people rating me down to above or like below average. I cannot even handle an above average. I have to be outstanding overachiever. So that is like the mindset of how I actually can deal with my own identity before I leave and start my own journey. And I wasn't worried. And there was a really funny story. So I quit in December 2019. One day I was driving and look at my car, odometer was saying almost 100,000 miles. I said, oh God, I need to buy another car. This is 1 month before I depart my firm. I need to buy another car. I have excellent credit. And then I called my mom and say, Mom, I think I need to buy another car. And she was like, okay, if you want to, then it's your money. So I went and negotiated, and I told the dealer, I said, this is what I want. I'm gonna give you 1 hour. I do not want to spend time, and you do not need to sell me any more packet. And this is my credit score. This is blah, blah, blah. You have all the information. I'm coming in here. If you hold me for 1 more minute, then an hour, I'm walking out. But if you do not, you'll have yourself a deal. This is how much I'm gonna pay per month, and blah, blah, blah. And then I got it 2.99%, 0 down for my QX60. And it was like 70,000 miles. So I still have some time. So my friend was like, are you crazy? You're leaving your job a month before. You're taking on like a $40,000 loan. And I'm like, but I have verifiable income, you know? So that was what's going through my mind. I knew that I need my W-2 to get this, to finance. I saved my money, and that's how I started my entrepreneurial journey. And I knew that there will be people. I'm not too worried about getting clients. So that's how VPG was started. Things were different, but I will digress and rest my voice as someone else.
But that's a great opportunity, right? I think both of you spoke to highlighting opportunity, identifying opportunity, especially in a very strange time like COVID, but then even now, right? And you brought up before, Jessica, emerging technology. We can't go a day, we can't go a minute without hearing about AI and how it's changing things. So these opportunities keep coming, this change keeps happening. Can you talk a little bit more about that? I think we've highlighted some of the industry change, but the technology and emerging technology change that you see, does that also become an opportunity for legal ops professionals who have a skill at managing data-driven processes and systems?
Yes, absolutely. I feel like legal operations professionals have been trained for AI. We are ready. Because if we think about in IP, I know I started off at a law firm, and we were still doing those paper file wrapper trifolds and printing off everything. And so about 20 years ago, 15 years ago, you started to see a lot of moving away from paper to electronic, right? And that's really potentially disruptive. And so that's what it started out as. And then you start seeing the firms starting to improve and take on some more tools and some more services, starting to get a little bit more risky so that they can provide more efficient services to their clients. You started to see corporations wanting to know, well, what about our data? So in the IP world, a law firm, of course, is going to have a IP management database, right? And that you're going to store all of your data in there, and that's usually to maintain your deadlines and your docket. But then corporations were saying, well, we would like to know what type of intellectual property that we own. We'd like to leverage these systems. And so as far as adoption of new technology, that is nothing new to the legal operations world. Now, what is new? The speed and the proliferation of AI, right? So now we're coming in and we are having an instrumental change across the industry. Organizations do not have a choice, really, unless you want to be left behind. And so now you're in a position where we have to take on high risk, new technology that a lot of people do not understand, and do that in an efficient manner. And so where the real skills come in, I believe, is taking the doom out of failure. So as I was implementing technology tools, you make failure part of the process, right? What's the most important clause in an agreement? It's the indemnification clause. It's that what happens if this is not going to be a happy day scenario. I think the most valuable skill with the legal operations professional is that we're able to identify, all right, let's fail fast. I will give a very specific example, is that I implemented an electronic e-billing system. We went ahead and we were able to then get a good idea on where is our spend and where are our opportunities. So I was looking and said, the first thing I looked for was how many patent applications, trademarks too, But my focus was how many trademark applications are we dropping before grants? And so essentially, how much are we just feeding in fees, attorney fees, USPTO fees for rights that we're never going to obtain? And so we started to see, we're seeing we're not dropping these until we have the last chance, the final office action, right? Final rejection, and then we're finally giving up the fight. And so what we ended up doing was looking and say, hey, we need to fail faster. We need to fail cheaper. It is a part of our process. So let's try to get that. If this application, if we don't think we're going to be able to have a good chance of obtaining rights, then let's go ahead and drop these sooner. Maybe let's do a better way of identifying these during the patent review committee. And let's go ahead and try to not even file ones that we think, here's a pattern. You know, we start looking at the data and we start saying, interesting, we're seeing patterns on why certain things are being dropped. So that's just a very specific example of where we can take those skills that were necessary in the legal operations world historically and then apply those to today's AI and more. Well, who knows what's going to happen next?
Who can predict the future? But I think what you pointed out is really important, that there are certain skills that are just inherent to being a legal ops professional that have prepared these people in this field specifically for whatever might come, right? Some of these fundamental things, but I love how you framed it as a fail fast mentality, right? You're taking a different kind of Silicon Valley, I guess, approach to something that traditionally hasn't been seen in the legal field. I'm not sure how you would feel about that, Ashley, if you back that up.
Yeah, I don't like the word failing. I think it's so drastic, and I think most of the people, especially for us perfectionists, we don't want to fail. So I think I'm going to introduce, not my word, but Simon Sinek always say, like, you fall, because you can actually get back up instead of failing. It's just less dramatic. So that's my view on that, and I'll rest my voice again.
Okay, thank you. But falling forward, right?
Yes.
Knowing that there is going to be something that happens next or something that comes next, it's on the horizon, but you're actually able to be prepared for it somewhat and learn from this iterative process.
So those are like, instead of your failing or falling, if I have to take my take, those are your growth opportunities.
I'd like to talk about a specific growth opportunity. I'm going to give you a minute to rest your voice and shift to Sasha, who's been very quiet there at the end of the table. But specifically to ask about this entrepreneurial mindset, right, and the journey that you've been on in starting your own business, right, similar to Ashley as well. Tell me a little bit more about that. We've talked a lot about opportunity and how to think entrepreneurially. Is there anything that you can share with the audience here when you think about your personal journey and how that's evolved?
Well, I'll just, in one sentence, my entrepreneurial journey began as almost a rebellion. I was working for branding firms, much like a law firm, but I was doing a lot of non-profit branding side hustle. Like nights and weekends, I was like helping nonprofits brand themselves, much like a lawyer might help a nonprofit.
Helping a debt not legal. Maybe.
You know, like, and I was doing it enough that my bosses were like getting stinky about it. Give me attitude. Why can't you work on Sunday? I'm like, well, I'm gonna be at a board meeting for this, you know, unhoused community service organization, for goodness sake. So that made me start my own business. That pain of like not being able to do good in the world made me start my own business. That was supposed to be one sentence. What I'll say to all of you is that my business for the last 18 years has foundationally served 10% of our clientele are nonprofits. And so we get to watch these nonprofits go through their process. It's really incredible. And I want to point out that one of my teaching roles is for a nonprofit executive director graduate school program. If you're a nonprofit leader and you want to like learn more about business, you'll get a graduate degree in this topic. I know. Like, wow, that's so interesting, right? Why do I say that? In this nonprofit program, in this graduate program for nonprofit leaders, one of the core required classes is entrepreneurial leadership. These people are not going out and starting a business. They're working inside a community service organization, and this program doesn't believe that you can do that well without an entrepreneurial mindset. So I don't know, I think that kind of like cushions the word a little bit. Like, it cushions the word entrepreneurship a little bit to not suggest They'll often start something solo. Think in a creative, productive, forward-looking way inside something and contribute entrepreneurially. Anyway, I was trying to like let a little of the air out on the word entrepreneurial.
It's a big word. It's taken on a life of its own as more business owner, right? That
Yeah.
mindset that you helped clarify at the beginning. It's not quite that, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's helpful for everyone who keeps hearing us use this word, entrepreneurial mindset. What about when we're thinking of ourselves as entrepreneurs? Because I know, like, obviously, part of getting the story out there and helping
Yeah.
people understand it, I think there's a common thread between your story and Ashley's.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I was working
That's why I
somewhere.
follow him for 5.5 years.
Right, right.
I'm like a stalker.
But you were working somewhere, right? You had a passion for what you wanted to do. You knew that you wanted to make a change, and you knew that you described it as rebellion, Sasha.
Yes.
Right? But you were working somewhere, you were taking the skills that you had and using them to your own best effect.
Totally.
I want to shift a little bit to the idea of knowing that you're very familiar with branding, personal branding, right? This founder story becomes a really powerful story as a personal brand. How would you say that in your own experience, right, it's been helpful for your entrepreneurial journey to have a personal brand, to be able to think of yourself as a brand?
I'll state for the record that many cultures, thematically, historically, culturally, would reject the notion of self-promotion. So for the record, I get it. And maybe the origin of that construct is a religion saying, no, be modest, don't self-express. Or maybe it's the way we grew up in a country, but still, for the record, 6 out of 10 cultures are like, no, don't do that. That's a shame, don't self-promote. I am not talking about that type of personal branding. I'm talking about there's people who want to work with you, but can't find you. Don't know how to connect and collaborate. They don't even know you exist, so they can't collaborate with you. Isn't that a shame? You may be able to create great things together, if thou can be found. Again, I'm trying to take a little bit of the air out of it, of this notion of personal branding, because thou shalt not be braggadocious. That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking, be findable, knowable. But to answer McNeal's question directly, one immediate benefit of personal branding is customers. So if that matters to you, I vote that you do some personal branding. And even if you're working in an enterprise, trust me, if you're working at a law firm and they're throwing cases at you, when you also bring cases, you get a big pat on the back. You start to get recognized. So if you ever want customers, you got to do personal branding. The last thing I'll mention about where personal branding has been important, not to make it morbid and creepy, but I had a near-death experience, like woke up in the hospital and was like, oh damn, I'm in a hospital. And I had a real big panic because the doctors insinuated that I almost died and that I might die again. And I had a panic because I was like, oh my gosh, my kids are very young. When they want to know who their dad was in the future, what can they turn to? What information will they get? And I had a creepy, crazy sigh of relief when I was like, well, if they Google me or whatever widget we used then, what will they find? And so in the hospital, I was like, oh, I like that. That makes me proud. And then Ashley over here, infinite, if you go to YouTube and you type in my name, it's like the Ashley Sasha show. And so I was like, oh, my kids will see me interacting with a quality human being. I'm proud of that. Well, the list goes on and on, where at the end of that reflection, I was able to sit back in the hospital and be like, okay, death, if thou shalt take me, I feel really good about the story I've left behind. Okay? So whether you want customers or comfort, personal brand serves.
Thank you for sharing that. When you're looking and finding things online about yourself, it's not just, like you say, self-promotion. There's ideas behind it, right? Ashley actually found you because of your expertise, right? And I think
Because I'm Simon Sinek.
He's not here today. Sasha is, so we'll just focus on Sasha's
But I didn't follow Simon Sinek, I follow him.
Exactly. And I think that expertise is what gets you follows, right? The expertise, like you mentioned, Jessica, LegalOps Professionals who are known for something or have a specialty that they can let others know about so that they can stand out from a very crowded field in some cases, which is very helpful. You know what? I'm going to give Ashley another minute to rest her voice because I wanted to ask Sasha, for everyone, when we use, again, we're using these words like entrepreneurial mindset and personal brand, what makes a good personal brand? Or what makes a strong personal brand?
I will say that you probably already know, because you're paying attention to people, coworkers, people in the booth, whatever, you're paying attention, and you are determining whether you will trust the word of what they say. You're like in the process of deciding if you believe what the preacher says. So I just say trust yourself, know that you're paying attention. And in what you're paying attention to, ultimately is probably your definition of what a good personal brand is. Maybe it's the posture, maybe it's the eye contact, maybe it's the words used. Okay, fine. So to you, a good personal brand would consider those things. But just for general learning, I would say, McNeal, that a great personal brand, a good personal brand, a professor graded personal brand is a brand that's consistent. We all have such short concentration. I mean, think about like us, our thumbs on TikTok, like our concentration. So people can't know you, and I'm not saying you should be on social media, I'm just saying in a conference like this, for someone to like remember you, they bump into you at line, they're at a booth with you, there needs to be something consistent for goodness sake. Otherwise they're just frenetic trying to catch your consciousness. So rule 1, McNeal, consistency is key to successful personal branding. The next piece that I'll throw out there, because Ashley is such a perfect example of this, is that personal brand really doesn't do well without collaboration. Because if you're just a person talking about yourself, even if you've got great value to add, you're helping people discover the power of the universe, awesome. When you do it solo, for whatever reason, in our social construct of society, you tend not to like maximally trust the person. But when there are other people participating, for some reason, we relax a little bit. And we're like, oh, okay, great. And so, if you want your personal brand to succeed, you can't just fly solo. You've got to like co-pilot with people and collaborate on things because their identity validates your identity. Those are my answers.
So not just customers, but also collaborators.
Yeah.
People who are actually helping you tell your story. That concept of social proof.
Yes.
I really like that idea. So thank you for setting up this pivot, because I'm going to come back to you now, Ashley, and ask specifically, because I know just from our interactions that you have done personal brand work. How would you say that it's helped you in your business on your entrepreneurial journey?
My voice is much better now, so I'm going to give it a go. So the benefits, I think that there are 3 things. First thing I wanted to talk about before I go into the 3 things that I thought is the benefits is that I have always been a workaholic. My parents trained me really well, and I used to work with them at a restaurant. So I go between, school work, and then when I go to like my master program, I was like, oh crap, I don't have enough time. How am I going to manage that time? So I'm really good at managing time and managing tasks I got from my department. I didn't feel that there's a need to be found for me, because I'm okay just like assume my role. People tell me what to do, I will totally just do it. No question asked, unless people like upset me, then I will ask a lot of questions. But that's another story. When I got into my work, remember when I said that earlier, it wasn't deliberate. I was like, okay, I'm gonna get out of a law firm. I'm not gonna go to another law firm. I'm gonna start my own company, be my own boss. I can just need, how many clients do I need? Not that many, because I don't want to work that much. For 5.5 years, all my clients were through word of mouth. Not one single person from like social media or anything like that. Everyone's word of mouth. So I was just telling Sasha and McNeal earlier, before I went on a vacation 2 days before, I have someone that emailed me, not because of social media, but because of my website. He emailed me and said that, hey, I would like you to help me file a petition. I was like, okay. Immediately, my mind goes to, how did he find me? And then I also have to set some boundaries. When I'm going on vacation, do I take the client? My brand is very reliable. If I go above and beyond 200%, and I'm pretty consistent, a lot of time I will just take that on at the expense of my own sanity. And that's sort of how I got burnout. And so having that growth opportunities and lessons learned, I realized that I need to ask some important questions to determine whether I want to take on this client. But more importantly, I was curious, how did you find me? So I asked the question, do you have 15 minutes? I'm going on vacation, do you have 15 minutes? If you do, can we hop on a call? And I wanted to ask some questions. And first question is, how did you find me? He was like, I found you on the website and you do PTAP filing. I'm like, funny, for 5.5 years, everybody find my website. There's only one other person that actually know that I do PTAP. Everybody asks me to do like personal injury and patent prosecution. they don't read. So I usually immediately reject. But the fact that he actually read, it piqued my interest, so I went on LinkedIn and searched his profile. He doesn't really have a strong profile, he hadn't been posting, but I find out he was a former administrative patent judge at the USPTO. And I know many of them, because they are like amazing people, and I work with the patent trial and appeal boards to do like with filings for my clients and stuff like that. So I know the group of people. So that immediately established like commonalities and trust. So I was like, okay, if he come back and said yes to having that call, I will just talk to him. So I talked to him. Very respectful, because I have other opportunities that I could work with people. They would immediately start by saying, I have a tech giant corporation that I need to file something for. I need you to do X, Y, Z, and this and that. And I have not even said yes. But this guy was completely civil. He was a judge, before. So I was like, okay. So I asked him a couple of questions. When do you need to file? How many exhibits do you have? Do you have, do you meet like the size requirement on the exhibits? If it's a video format, what type of videos? And this is all during that 15 minutes consultation with him. And that was a Friday. And I said, when do you want to file? He said, either today or tomorrow. So I just laughed. And he goes like, I want to hire you. And then I told him, I said, I'm going on vacation, going to Alaska. I will set up a team to talk to you about certain things, because I don't know what my Wi-Fi situation is on cruise. So they will be contacting you. If I have good Wi-Fi, I will contact them, but I'm also testing my quality of life of not using my laptop on vacation. We did it, and I think to his credit, he was so collaborative and very respectful, because attorneys are not always respectful to non-attorneys. This is not a thing on attorneys, it's just that I think the hierarchical structures set up that mindset. Sort of long story short, when I came back, I immediately returned on his call and we set up a Zoom, and the first thing he said to me was, thank you so much for your incredible patience, because I set up the system and infrastructure for someone that doesn't have a full-time employee. I set everything up, and before I left, and when I came back, an immediate follow-up, and we filed everything, and he kept me in the loop. And during our Zoom call, the things that he said to me, and I thought that it was the greatest compliment. And he was like, I didn't know people like you exist. I said, I'm like that killer whale. I go like up below the water, and you have to use binocular to find me. Mm-hmm. And he was just so nice. And immediately after I finished the filing, I offered him a couple more advice. And then after that, I immediately follow up with testimonial. So he is going to do like a 2 to 3 sentence testimonial for me. So that's the power of branding.
But this is great, and I love that story because, like you were saying, you've been doing this for a while, you've built up great cases of how you've helped people, but this particular client found you online, right? And specifically, you were very clear about how you could help. That P-tab really jumped out at you, right? He knew what he wanted, found someone that could actually help him with it, this idea that you could actually do it. The other thing I love about that story is something that I've heard you say many times, Sasha, it's teach, don't sell. Right? People know what they want, but sometimes they don't know what they don't know. And if you fill that void with education or information, like in your case, helping him understand, I know you've been a judge, but here's how it actually works, that's really helpful. I know you're, just from experience, education is central to your brand, helping people learn and educating people. So in those small moments, you're living your authentic brand, right? And delivering value to your customers and clients.
And I think the benefits of the brand are real quick. I don't think that I ever got to the point, but I think that I got to be more intentional about my own use of language and believing in myself, because we can't believe in you unless we hear you believe in yourself. Sasha Strauss. The thing is, like, I used to be okay hiding because it's so bad for self-promotional. People just like kind of look at you weird. I've learned to reframe that. I am much more vigilant about the use of language in how I present myself, and also consistently across platforms. And when I say platforms, I don't mean only social media. I do social media. People would probably think that, oh gosh, she's so vain. She's doing it every day. It's really something that I am so okay to be in the backstage. If I don't do this, I would totally be okay not be visible. So Seth Godin, he's a guru from the Marketing Hall of Fame. I learned from him by reading his book. He writes a lot of blogs. And he said that I write another blog because it's another day. I don't care how many likes I have. I have to really learn and hone to not liking, because we all like to, when you do a post, look at how many followers I have, look at how many likes. I literally have to deliberately not think about that. Because otherwise, I'm letting other people's influence why I post. I post this morning, it's like, the book seems like a good idea. I don't want to haul back to Virginia. So I'm going to make it a donation and proceeds to go to adapt.legal. That's kind of how I roll. So I think that brands also open doors. If I did not show up, I would not be here today. I would not have known all of these wonderful people, including all of you sitting. I would not have known Eli and Ethan, who's our video engineer. Also, the last thing is about self-discovery. If you only live in your own head, I don't want to show up for other people. Where's your point of comparison? I did not agree with everything that was kind of discovered during my personal branding. That means there's a gap between how others perceive me versus myself. And so I really have to strike a balance between learning to accept myself for who I am, but taking into other people's consideration. So I think one of the things that I really learned to do is I poll people, but I also consider source. So now I need to burst my voice again.
And that's all right, because I wanted to also turn to, I want to leave a little time for everyone here to ask questions, right? Because I'm sure there's some questions that might be in the audience. But before we do that, and you've given some great advice to everyone here, I was also curious about Jessica, Sasha, if there was one piece of advice that you would give to any LegalOps professional here considering to start their own entrepreneurial journey, what would it be?
I'm glad you asked that, because I was just about to jump in. There were two words that I heard: fake and authentic, right? And so I think the major advice is authenticity. If you're going to go for a brand, if you're going to be working and collaborating with anyone, you can't just say, if you want to say, I'm known for being a hard worker, but you sleep in until 10 o'clock every day, and log into your computer for a couple hours. That's not truly authentic to the type of brand or the type of perception you're trying to share with other people. So I would say number one is authenticity with that, because Ashley, you were saying you make all these posts, it feels like you're being fake, but anyone who knows you knows that those posts are very authentic to your entire persona. So I would say focusing and being present on the fact that no matter what you do, everyone is going to think of a couple words in their mind, right? They're going to see that, and those words are going to evolve, and they can evolve over minutes, they can evolve over years if you're not being consistent with your brand. But I would say just being really authentic, because not just because we want to be true to our authentic selves, but I think the major change with AI is that we all know when we are talking to a chatbot, right? We all know when something is not authentically human, and we crave that because we're social creatures by nature. So I think that was a longer answer than probably expected, but authenticity for many, many, many reasons.
Sarah, McNeal sort of prompted us to think, one idea that we would want everyone to consider. I so agree with consistency. I'll share a quote from an awesome visionary, but needless to say, the quote is this: "The world will ask you who you are. And if you do not answer, the world will tell you." You're going to be in a new firm, you're going to be at a new conference, someone's going to be like, "Tell me about yourself." And if you don't answer, they're going to make up stories in their mind about you, that boss, that coworker, that customer, etc. And so the premise behind that quote from Carl Jung is, why not think about what your answer is? Why not know thyself? Don't let the world tell you who you are. You decide and communicate it, and you do that consistently, you align it with the value you create, and you teach while you do it, and you will be remembered, preferred, defended, all the good things.
If I had a mic, I would drop it right now. But since I don't, I'm just going to pivot to Ashley for the last word before we move on to questions from everyone who's joined us today.
I have been really thinking about authenticity. Brene Brown talks a lot about authenticity, and I love Brene, but I also decided I'm gonna sort of like, if there's a, if there's a continuum, I want to dial it back a little bit in the middle. It will be somewhere between consistent and be who you are, because as professionals, we cannot be 100% authentic to do what we want to do. I like to wear slippers. Am I going to go wear slippers to go on the stage to talk? No, not really. That is not to discredit what Jessica said. It's just that's something I feel very strongly about. And then also because I'm getting ready to interview someone like Seth Golden, I'm going to interview him. He actually does not believe in authenticity. So I had to prep myself to, he believes in consistency. So he was like, you are a professional, you are supposed to be there to serve a role. And sometimes that does not mean that you can be 100% yourself. So I think that it is okay that authenticity is not 100%. It could be that under circumstances, you have to weigh between your personal preference versus what your professional role requires you to do. So that's what I want to kind of say about that. And then also that judge, he already recommended me to other judges. So I'll let you go open to
There's a collaborator. Authenticity, consistency, making sure that you are getting yourself out there, right? Telling your story in the way that's most effective for the audience that you want to reach. I think this has been a great session. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you also to everyone who, all the great stories and information that was shared today. I'd like to give a round of applause to everyone who's speaking today.
And also to Eli and Ethan and everyone who attends.
To Eli and Ethan and everybody who made this possible. Thank you very much.
So raffle tickets?
Yes. Raffle tickets.